Curtis Calhoun here with MMA News, and the PFL season is right around the corner, and that means I got to check in with my next guest, Chris Wade. How's it going, Chris?
It's going good. Rushing around, juggling life, wrapping up this camp, but everything is going great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. You seem to be in a good spot, man. Obviously, the season's right around the corner, and it's been a while since we checked in with you, man. How pumped are you to get back in there in the PFL cage and get rolling with the PFL season?
I'm really excited to be back. It's been a little too long of a layoff for me from a mental perspective with the way that my last bout shook out. It's been really hard for me to sit with and to just train through and not be able to get back on the winning track. So this is long anticipated by me now at this point. I'm talking like a couple months now. I've been wanting to get in there.
I was about to say, because I know you're a guy that likes to stay active in and out of the gym and keep fighting. I mean, how frustrating has been this long layoff, especially with the last fight and how it played out?
It's been, it's understandable. I like that the PFL does seasons, and usually I would like the idea of the off season, if you win, you're the champ. But it has been brutal mentally to just be stuck with my own thoughts, with my own frustrations for this long and not be able to get in there and right those wrongs. So very much needed.
I guess if there's any positive from the long layoff as we approach this fight, obviously you got to be feeling extra motivated and rejuvenated and energized ahead of the season. Talk to me a little bit about your mentality, like how pumped are you to get back in there and prove a point, make a statement?
Yeah, I'm so excited because listen, going up into the playoffs of last year, I was on a roll. I was cooking, and I felt like everything was clicking, and it was my year. And life and the fight game tends to do stuff like that to us, where just when you think you're about to have everything that you want, you get knocked back down. And throughout my life, through wrestling, through fighting, I've learned that these things are just going to happen. It's not easy to do what we do. Being in the PFL, fighting in the tournament is one of the most difficult things that you could do in mixed martial arts. You see even Burgos, right? He's with us now, but he went up to 55 because it's making weight every 6 or 8 weeks it's hell on your body. And I think when we got to that third fight and they sent me over to London, it was just a mixed bag of things like that. What can go wrong will type of situation. And I'm excited to be back and to be fighting here back in the United States, back in Vegas. I love to go west and fight. Very, very positive outlook on this season. I feel that I got better all off season.
And it doesn't hurt that you're running it back with a guy that you know well, Bubba Jenkins. Obviously, he fell short in the championships last season, but you got the better of him last time you guys fought. Talk to me a little bit about the matchup itself. Have you seen any improvement in terms of his fight game since the last time you guys fought, or how do you see this fight playing out stylistically?
Yeah, I think he has improved as an overall mixed martial artist from just looking at it objectively. And watching his fight with Brendan, he was definitely letting his hands go pretty well. I think he's more confident on his feet than maybe he was earlier in his career, and I can relate to that as a wrestler as well. But at the end of the day, I still see the fight where high-level grappling exchanges and scrambles are going to go down. I think when you put two guys like us in there that are explosive, but that also have that wrestling background, we can't help it. As soon as we get close enough to what feels familiar, we go to it. So I think even if he wants to stand up with me in his head or try that, he's going to wind up shooting.
And I want to touch very, very briefly on your last fight. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing my job as a journalist if I didn't just briefly touch on it. What were some of your takeaways from that fight with Brandon Loughnane? Looking back on it, how would you evaluate how things played out?
Geez. Well, not good for me. I felt like I felt like when I got there, between my just a bunch of factors, like I said, all I had left, a little too early on in that fight, was toughness. Um, I was really digging, just couldn't find myself, didn't feel like I could get going. I couldn't get my grappling going. I felt lethargic. I felt exhausted. I felt like I hadn't trained. Um, like it felt like you called me and you were like, dude, there's an injury and we need someone to step in here on 2 weeks. Can you do it for us? And I was like, I'll do it. That's how I felt like 2 minutes into that fight. So I don't know. It had to have been a myriad of factors, just all the shit going back and forth, the flight, the time difference. It all favored him, and it was a detriment to me. And that adversity is tough to overcome sometimes. But he fought great in the cage itself. He was very crisp. I learned a lot. You learn the most from your losses. If you don't, you're not going to make it long in this sport. So he kind of blessed me with a few things in that fight of learning about myself, learning about him. And I think that if I do things right this season, that everything I went through in that fight will help me for what I need in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, one thing you've really showed is that you've always had a really keen ability of bouncing back from losses, right? In terms of getting right back in there, getting right back on the grind and making a statement. So I got to ask you about the state of the PFL featherweight division. Obviously, we got Marlon Moraes in the mix. As you mentioned, Shane Burgos was going to be a featherweight, now moved up to lightweight. What are your thoughts on kind of the state of the division as we get ready with the season?
Yeah, I think that this division remains in the hands of the four horsemen, so to speak. You got Movlid, Brendan, myself, and Bubba. And until further notice, I think that whoever else is out on the outside knocking needs to they got to break, one of us down to get inside that top four. I think that we've all proven in our own separate ways that we are the top of that division. And I take nothing away from those other three guys. They have my respect in fighting in the cage. And I think it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be who gets what seed, and what matchup is what in the semis. And that's going to dictate how this thing shakes out. It's pretty cool.
What are your thoughts on Movlid coming back? Obviously, he was out last season. Obviously, I'm sure that's probably another one you want to run back. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I had a feeling. We have the same management, so I knew that he wouldn't be there last season. But I always knew in the back of my head that he would be back this season, so it was no surprise to me. He I think he's the number one guy in the division until further notice. People need to put some respect on his name and what he accomplished in 2021. And I'm sure those guys, he wasn't on a vacation for 12 months. He was working. So, he's going to come back ready and in game form. And I'm looking forward to, I wouldn't mind, getting another shot at that one and having things go a little different. But I really would like to fight Brendan again as well. I need that in my life. So.
Absolutely, man. And it's been a while since I think you fought in Las Vegas too. How much does that excite you to get back in Las Vegas with all the history there in combat sports and all that?
Las Vegas is one of my favorite places to it's in regard to mixed martial arts. I think it's just so cool. It reminds me of big fights. It reminds me of a little bit of Manhattan with the hustle and the bustle and the lights. So um, I'm really looking forward to being back there. Anytime they tell me we might go to Vegas, I'm like, let's go. Yes, let's do it. You know, it just has a lot more juice to me than some of the other spots that I've been at. But I always typically feel good when I travel west from where I am. So I did like hearing that as well. It gives me a really, I don't know what it is about going back in time, but it gives me a lot of juice the whole fight week.
I was about to say, because you mentioned going back in time, does it kind of just bring you back to a place in terms of, you know, when you were just starting in the sport and having that solid energy? Does it add that extra energy and the motivation, you know, being able to fight in a place like Las Vegas?
Yeah, being in the big casinos, it reminds me of like the come up, because New York, MMA was illegal in New York when I came up. So I spent my whole early career fighting in Atlantic City at casinos, booking hotels, selling tickets, you know, hustling for friends and family to come, and gambling, you know, going on around the venue as you walk out the doors. It's just, to me, because of the way I came up, that feels like fighting. So it puts me back in like, okay, that's home. When I'm at these other spots that are like 30 minutes from the venue and we're at a regular hotel, it doesn't feel complete to me. But when you're there, you get that sense of completion. At least for me, I do.
Last question for me, man. Obviously, I got to ask you, like, what's your message to the PFL fans ahead of the season, and what can they expect from 2023 Chris Wade?
PFL fans, this is going to be probably the most exciting season that, especially at my division, that has gone down. I could just feel it. Everything has been building. They continue to build this thing every season, and I love the direction that it's all going. Out of me, I promise that you're going to see the best Chris Wade that you've ever seen, the most complete and the most hungry, because listen, it's sink or swim, right? I've been knocking at multiple weights. I've been spending the entire off season on tweaking things so that we can burst through that door. So look to see the guy looking to finish, just looking to get in there and get out of the cage, not to go through full fights. I'm looking to get my hands on them, put them to sleep, get out of there.
I love it. Well, hey, before we wrap things up here, I'll give it the final word to shout out your team, shout out the PFL, any sponsors you're working with, shout out your social media if you want to. I'll give it the final word.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to my team, Long Island MMA. We just opened a few weeks ago, a brand new location on the South Shore of Long Island in West Babylon. We have our Islip location as well. So big things happening just in the gym. We have a lot of young guns coming up. It's a good time to be around there. And then please give me a follow at Chris Wade MMA on Instagram. I believe it's at C Wade MMA on Twitter. And that's where I do most of my work, most of my social media work. So please give me a follow. It helps us out tremendously. When the fighters have a bigger following, you just command more leverage. So it's really important for the fans to shoot a follow if you do like that guy or girl.
Well, Chris, it's always great chatting with you. We can't wait for the season. All the best with these final few weeks of camp, and I'm sure we'll chat again soon, man. Thank you so much for the time.
All right. Thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you again soon.